Hello children, welcome back. Shall we get into the class? Okay, so we shall start our first chapter, life processes. So what is life processes? Let me ask you a few questions. How do you say an organism is alive or dead? How do you say an organism is alive or dead? How do you say a plant is alive? What about microbes, viruses? And what about animals during sleep? So how do you confirm that the living organism is alive or dead? Don't bother who's next to you, just shout your answers out. Come on. Yes, I get different answers from you all. Thank you. So let me tell you the answer. In the first two cases, the first question was, how do you say an organism is alive or dead? So let me give you an example. A cat moves, a cat jumps. So what do you see, children? A cat is moving, a cat is jumping. So you see some movement taking place, the cat. A plant grows, a plant blooms. So what do you see there? You see some sort of growth that is taking place in plant. So in the first two cases, you find certain changes called movement and growth that is taking place in a living organism that confirms that the plant or the living organism is alive. And in the third and the fourth case, especially virus, I asked you a question, how can you say a microbe, especially viruses, are alive? So why did I pose that question is, viruses are just considered as chemicals without a host. Host meaning where they live. So viruses can actively replicate, multiply only when they find a suitable host. The fourth condition is, how do you say an animal is alive during sleep? So though the animal is at rest, though the body is at rest completely, we still find the animal breathe, their heart beats and all those processes. So in the third and fourth condition, though the body is at rest completely, you can still find certain movements that are taking place in the living organism that confirms that those are alive. So we already know that all our body is made up of cells, and we also know the levels of organization, that cells combine together form tissues, tissues form organs, organs form organ system, and organ system form living organisms. So I told you there are certain movements that takes place in the living organism. So especially in the molecule called cell. So when there is a movement that takes place in the molecule, you call those movements as molecular movement. So you call this movement as molecular movements. So this molecular movement has to continue in order to continue the life cycle. So what do they require if they need to continue? The cell has to multiply, the cell has to do all the functions. Sometimes the cell can become old and even damaged. It can get damaged. So the cell has to repair and maintain in order to continue the life processes. So we have certain movements like growth. So the first movement is growth. Then we have different sort of movements. Then we have repair, and we have maintenance process. So all these changes that are taking place in the molecule to continue the life cycle, you call that as life processes. So you call that as life processes. So life processes are important in order to sustain life. Now tell me what you need to continue life processes. What is a basic thing that we all need, that we all work for? Very good. Food in order to continue the life cycle. Yes, food. So we all require food in order to continue the life cycle. Okay. So basically any food when you consider, we have the basic 5 components like carbon-based molecules. They are carbohydrates, protein, fats, vitamins and minerals. So you need to get certain amount of energy from the food in order to continue the life cycle. So the obtaining energy from the food, from the nutrients, you call the process as nutrition. So you call that as nutrition. So to occur nutrition, our body will allow the food to undergo certain chemical process. You call those process as reduction or oxidation reaction. So you call those chemical reactions as reduction and oxidation reactions. So the food will undergo these type of chemical reactions in order to eat energy. Now tell me how you get that energy. How a bigger substance is turned into an energy? Yes, very good. By the process of digestion. So by the process of digestion. So digestion is the breakdown of complex food substances into simpler substances. Now to occur digestion, we require a very important component is oxygen. So adding up of oxygen, you call the process as respiration. So now out of this, so the food has turned into energy. It has undergone a process called digestion with the help of oxygen molecule, and we got some energy. So you receive certain amount of energy. Now this energy cannot remain in one place. It has to be transported to all the body parts in order to continue the life cycle. So that transportation, you call that as circulation. So you call that as circulation. I have already told you there is an involvement of certain chemical reactions called the reduction and oxidation. So obviously when there is an involvement of chemical reactions, that will release certain harmful substances in our body, which has to be released out. So the removal of the harmful substances from the body, you call the process as, so just removing all the harmful substances, and the process called excretion. So we have come across nutrition, digestion, respiration, circulation and excretion. So all these are certain certain molecular movements that are taking place in our body in order to continue the life cycle. So you call these processes as life processes. So in this chapter, we are going to discuss all these 5 processes along with the organ system. How do they work in a human body? Hope the concept is clear. So next we'll continue with what is nutrition and the types of nutrition.